This is TWiT.
iFixit says that Apple's self-repair program manages to make MacBooks seem less repairable. We mentioned that the M1 MacBooks were added to the repair program last week, but the guide that Apple sends you is apparently so complicated. 26 steps. Now they do point out that the Surface Pro 6 battery replacement guide is 52 steps. So, and that the iPad battery replacement guides can be hundreds of steps, but Apple's MacBook Pro battery replacement, the official one, is 162 pages long.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah, this was fascinating. I looked to see what the Touch ID button, if you just wanted to replace the Touch ID button on a 14-inch MacBook Pro, what would it take? And you do have to enter the serial number for your MacBook. You know, you can't just like shop for parts. You have to use your serial number. You'll be shown parts for your laptop. And you can buy the Touch ID button by itself for $80-something. Because I was trying to make something, I know Jason Snell and Mike Hurley have done like that standalone Touch ID button. So I was kind of looking up. I was like, how much is the part? But in the guide to change the Touch ID button, it said the prerequisites for replacing this is removing the logic board, removing like the trackpad, I think, and removing like the top display. And so, you know, those were just 3 bullet points in like, now you can work on replacing the Touch ID button and basically disassemble the entire computer. So it does feel intimidating, but listen, if someone wants to do it, Apple has a step-by-step for you.
But maybe Apple's more complete. I mean, so iFixit's guide is 26 steps. Apple's guide is 162 pages, but it's Apple, right? So they're going to be more detailed.
They really cherry-picked something here because this is a top case in battery replacement, and Apple says, and I think it's even in that story, Apple says they are working on a straight-up battery replacement, but they don't have that right now at launch. You can do that for the MacBook Air and the 13-inch Pro. I believe you can do straight-up battery replacements on them, but not the 14 and 16 yet. So there's probably a less complicated way to do it. I think, you know, I don't know. If there's a way to do it in fewer steps and iFixit can find it, then that's great. Again, you have to ask, who are you as a person? Like, are you confident enough to take, if there's a shortcut, do you want to take it? Or do you want to follow Apple's advice and do it the official Apple way? Do you want to use, if you go to the trouble of getting an official Apple part, do you want to just follow the official Apple rules? I am replacing a USB-C port on my son's MacBook Pro that I bought him for college, which a friend of his already broke a port on it. Kids. But I'm going to use this system to do it. But I'm going to have to go down to the logic board, and I'm not happy about it. But that's how I have to get. That's how to get down to where I can have access to the USB-C board.
Are you going to stream that?
I have thought about streaming it live, and I thought to myself, this could turn into one man's descent into madness. So I'm thinking I might.
Why I asked?
I think I might record it.
I'd like to watch that, Jason.
I think I might record it and see how it goes.
What is Apple? Did Apple say how much they would replace it for? Did you get a quote?
I haven't, and I have Apple. Here's the thing: is it would be great content for my website, but. I do have AppleCare Plus on that, so I should probably just call them and say, look, bad USB port, please fix, and have them do it. I will say, though, the part was $18.
Right.
Sure.
Like, I mean, other than my time, and it might take an hour of my time to disassemble it and a lot of sweat, $18 and the computer never has to leave my house versus having my son, you know, like taking the laptop away and saying, I don't know when it'll be back, and going through that process. There is something to be said for it, but, you know, I do have that choice to make, and everybody does have that same choice. But I was impressed. Like, again, broken USB-C port, I'm like, oh, man, what am I going to do here? And then I realized, well, I can pay $18 plus shipping and do it myself if I want to, and it'll probably take an hour.
Does it involve soldering?
No, there's no soldering involved. I would be all the way out if soldering was involved. No, it turns out those USB-C ports are just little. You just
modules.
Unscrew a little hex screw and pop them right off.
That's nice.
It's actually pretty good, yeah.
The problem is, of course, that you have to remove everything to get to it. That's really why it takes so long. You have to really dig in.
Because they've stacked it like a layer cake, right? And you start from the underside, and you got to go through all the layers to get access to the thing that you need to pull out. And if it's something that's right at the top, it's real easy. And if it's not, it's not.
That's why there's 162 pages for putting a battery in a MacBook Pro, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to take out to get to the battery. And yeah, you have to replace the cover. It's one part.
Yeah, the top case.
I have built a Lego lunar lander with fewer instructions than that. That's impressive.
And that was just for fun.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And look at all the different kinds of screws. There's a Torx T5, T3.
Yeah. I will say, to iFixit's credit, if you can get these, you can buy tools from Apple, but iFixit, if you've got the iFixit kit, you're in good shape.
Yeah. I always like iFixit's stuff.
I've replaced a lot of iMac hard drives with SSDs, and peeling off the display can be pretty tedious. I'm curious if the M1 iMac will ever make it into the self-repair program.
They told me that the plan was to get desktops into the program. So just like, the iPhone is already like a little bit extra to get into an iPhone to repair it. So compared to that, the iMac is going to be
desktop's easy.
No problem. But I'm sure it'll be.
Although I didn't do it. I made Colleen do it, but I have watched somebody add a hard drive to an iMac, and it involves large suction cups and things. It's very complicated.
Because you're going to go in through the screen.
I do have to wonder why Apple says that among the tools you need, including torque drivers and cut-resistant cloths, you also need a fireproof enclosure. That's not reassuring.
That's the battery. They're worried. That's if you puncture a battery, you can do bad things.
Wow. Wow. Okay. A lot of stuff.
Well, see, this is the difference between Apple and iFixit. iFixit wants you to be empowered, and they want to sell you tools. And so they're going to be like, you can do this. Go, you. And Apple's more like, well, yeah, you can do it, but
you need some sand. And if there's going to be sand, there's going to be a sand container.
Maybe take it to the Apple store instead.
And sticky notes. I don't know. Suction cups. More suction cups. More Torx screwdrivers. Now, do they recommend clear alcohol or like a whiskey? Or for drinking or for cleaning?
Is that for after, or is it to steady your hands before you?
Apparently, there's
at this step, cut the blue wire with the yellow stripe, not the green wire with the white stripe.
And we're only on page 25, kids. I mean, we're already removing keys for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
That manual's got every repair.
Oh, it's got them all in here. Yeah. Okay.
That PDF has every
And then
repair.
I love it because after you've taken everything apart, then they say reassemble it. Boom, 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 boom. We're not going to tell you how. Just reassemble it.
No, each section has a reassembly diagram on it too.
Okay.
It's all I looked it up. I had to look it all up.
Yeah.
One USB-C port.
Yeah.
I want to see how this home repair program continues to evolve. Right now, it seems as though Apple is begrudgingly saying that we don't want to be in front of a regulatory agency saying that we don't make it possible for people to repair their own hardware. However, this is also seems like something that got put together with whatever they had at the moment. I'm wondering I'm really like to see 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now if they start designing things not so that it's easy to self-repair, not so that it would be attractive to repair it yourself instead of taking it to an Apple store, but basically to put people in a position where there's probably a really good reason why you decided to fix this at home instead of going to an Apple store, maybe including it being a 4-hour drive to a local Apple store. We have looked for ways that we can make this repair easier to do without compromising the design of the thing. We're going to start to put things that tend to break closer to the top of the layer cake, or we're going to try to use fewer adhesives where we don't necessarily need to use adhesive. I don't think that they're going to ever. It's not that they're ever going to make something like the Framework laptop, but every time that I try to do a repair or an upgrade. I mean, just this weekend, one of the projects was taking my 2012 Mac Mini in anticipation of replacing it with a new Apple Silicon Mac Mini, hopefully in October or November. Basically saying, well, how can I update this so that I can make use of it when it gets replaced as a desktop Mac? And obviously, one of them is replace the Fusion drive with an SSD, and that it's not as hard as on an iMac, but it really is just buried there. It is at the bottom of the pit, and you really do have to take everything apart to get to it. Thank goodness it's all screws and you can get to it, but this is not designed. They clearly never envisioned anybody other than someone who's wearing a colorful T-shirt with an Apple logo ever trying to access this drive.
Actually, Tim Cook kind of addresses that in the Popular Mechanics interview, saying, we have to balance robustness and reliability with repairability, and one of the reasons it's like this is so that it's robust, that it can handle being thrown around and stuff. Here is, by the way, I hope you have some ESD safe tweezers, Jason, because here is the picture. You're going to
Indeed.
have to Yes,
but I have the iFixit repair kit, so take that. Checkmate, Apple.
Checkmate
and mate.
Yeah. Somebody's saying in the chat room, and I think it may be kind of true, there's a little bit of sour grapes from iFixit, because this 162-page manual is everything,
well,
right?
Look, iFixit is a great organization. They are also an advocacy group, right? Like they for
right
some great stuff, like Right to Repair.
Yep,
absolutely the case. But so Apple has given a little bit on this one issue. Is it going to be good enough for iFixit? No, it's never going to be good enough, right? Because iFixit is. It always can envision a world where there's even more and it's more available. And that is what Andy described as the push and pull happens within Apple, and it also happens between manufacturers and iFixit, which is sort of like iFixit's all about repairability. That is a priority for Apple because most Mac repairs and iPhone repairs are done by Apple, right? Like if it's hard, it's harder for them to repair their own devices.
That's true.
But they have other priorities too, and that's that push and pull that's there. And I feel like over the last few years, I've gotten the sense that Apple has actually taken some steps, and even iFixit will acknowledge taken some steps toward repairability. I suspect that's because Apple realized the cost to Apple of repairing their own devices, and they're trying to ease it a little bit. But they've got priorities that iFixit doesn't have, because iFixit's only concerned about the repairability part and not the fact that you can't make a little AirPod that's repairable that fits in your ear at that size. That's the trade-off there, is you're trading that off, and iFixit doesn't like that. And they shouldn't. I like that they're an advocate for repair.
Yeah. I also like that I said before that Apple's never going to make a laptop like the framework laptop, and nor necessarily would everybody want a MacBook that's designed like a framework laptop where you can use a couple of simple tools and just do everything, really fix everything you want, upgrade everything you want. Nonetheless, I do think that it's very, very important that a company like Framework exists, because they're making it more difficult for a company like Apple to say, oh, well, look, if we... I know that you are like little children. You want what you want, but trust me, if we designed a MacBook so that you could upgrade or swap out the SSD yourself, you wouldn't want to use it. And then someone can just say, oh, well, here's my framework laptop, and it really has the same performance specs, price, weight, thinness as your MacBook, only I can, 2 years from now, I can actually put in a brand new motherboard myself if I want to, let alone upgrade the RAM, let alone replace a busted internal SSD without having to buy a whole new motherboard. So I'm glad that the flow of gravity is towards, let's see what we can do to make these things easier to fix, as Jason said, not only for smoothness from authorized Apple service centers, but also so that, again, also as Jason said, when there's someone broke something and it seems like something that should be easy to fix without having to do without for a week, or having to wipe the drive to make sure that nothing private leaves leaves your hands, it should be that should at least be an investigatable option for every user, I think.